This graph tracks two distinct approaches to capital allocation. On the left is long-term capital management, managed by Nobel laureates with IQs over 160. Their highly leveraged models led to a vertical collapse in 1998. On the right, Berkshire Hathaway displays steady, multi-decade success. This sustained trajectory belongs to Warren Buffett and his business partner Charlie Munger. Their success relies on a methodology that intentionally ignores modern academic finance. Exceptional intelligence frequently fails in complex systems because experts are almost always narrowly specialized. When these brilliant people operate outside their specific domain, overconfidence in isolated expertise completely blinds them to systemic risks. Munger identifies the core problem within elite academia. Universities isolate knowledge into rigid departments, economics in one building, psychology in another, physics in a third. This balkanization of reality into territorial silos is structurally flawed. This creates the man with a hammer syndrome. To a person armed only with a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. An expert will force a complex real-world problem to fit their single analytical tool, even when it ignores obvious human behaviors. Consistently allocating capital requires a synthesized framework. You need a latticework of approximately 100 mental models extracted from the primary disciplines of the hard and soft sciences. We will construct this latticework. We'll extract models from their silos, map human cognitive misjudgment, and apply these overlapping systems to derive a $2 trillion monopoly. Surviving a complex system requires a formal, multidisciplinary framework for perceiving objective reality. The bedrock of the latticework rests on fundamental mathematics. You must achieve fluency in arithmetic, permutations, combinations, and the probability models of Fermat and Pascal. You must also grasp the Gaussian distribution, or the bell curve, to understand how risks are distributed across populations. However, calculating these distributions to 10 decimal points creates a false sense of precision. Conceptual mastery is the requirement. Hyper-precision is a trap. Applying mathematical probability to selective decision-making results in the philosophy of Ted Williams. His approach to hitting provides a model for patience and capital allocation. Williams divided his strike zone into the 77-cell matrix. He refused to swing at pitches outside his high-probability sweet spot, accepting the risk of striking out rather than engaging in low-probability plays. To protect these selective decisions, we pull constraints from physics and engineering. You must integrate a margin of safety, identify structural breakpoints, install redundant backup systems to prevent systemic collapse. Chemistry provides the model of autocatalysis. This occurs when accumulated mass triggers a sudden explosive reaction without requiring any new external energy. Disney utilized an autocatalytic reaction when the VHS tape was invented. Their copyrighted archives catalyzed into billions of pure profit, requiring zero new invention. Biology imposes further constraints. Darwinian natural selection and neurological evolution forced the human brain to rely on crude, flawed cognitive shortcuts to process information. Global markets and corporate entities are physical systems, strictly governed by inescapable physical laws and evolutionary survival metrics. Moving up the latticework, we frame the free market as a biological ecosystem where specialists occupy and defend highly profitable niches. This geometric proof illustrates the advantages of scale. When you expand a circular tank, the cost, measured by surface area, grows by the square, but the capacity, cubic volume, grows by the cube. This explains the chain store effect. A single independent store relies on isolated buyers making hundreds of small decisions. A massive headquarters leverages centralized purchasing power to buy for thousands of stores, securing lower costs and specialized expertise. But scale also creates vulnerabilities. Massive volume breeds creeping bureaucracy, slow decision-making, and internal corruption. There is also the technology trap. Massive capital outlays for new equipment often fail to increase profits because competitive destruction forces those savings directly through to the consumer. On a macroeconomic scale, nations face the tragedy of the commons. When advanced nations establish free trade with developing economies, the immediate economic gains can eventually erode the advanced nation's domestic technological supremacy. The danger occurs when economists attempt to quantify these dynamics using physics envy. When forecasting Medicare's original cost, PhD economists used linear extrapolation and missed the actual cost by 1,000% because they ignored behavioral incentives. Economic models are incomplete when they rely on mathematical precision while ignoring the real-world incentives that actually drive systems.
Faster, more urgent tone. This exposes a failure in elite academic institutions. They do not teach psychology as an integrated combinatorial checklist for decision makers. To defend your logic, you must master the 25 tendencies of human misjudgment. First is incentive-caused bias. An executive rewarded by short-term metrics will inherently rationalize corrupt derivative accounting and stock option manipulation to protect their payout. Next is psychological denial and the deprival superreaction syndrome. When an investment collapses, professionals irrationally throw good money after bad to avoid the pain of realizing a loss. The consistency principle makes the human brain resist changing its previous conclusions, tightly gripping an initial thesis, even when presented with disconfirming evidence. Social proof drives the monkey-see, monkey-do mimicry of the herd. When institutional investors blindly copy their peers, they invite regression to the mean. You must also differentiate true expertise from authority bias. The physicist Max Planck understood his material. His chauffeur simply memorized the talk. Relying on chauffeur knowledge, confident rhetoric without mastery, is lethal. The use it or lose it principle states that intellectual skills rapidly attenuate. Without continuous simulation and active practice, your analytical tools will degrade. Ultimately, ideological bias is a cognitive destroyer. It pounds rigid ideas in so heavily that it completely distorts objective reality. Standard psychology explains the Milgram experiment, where subjects shocked innocent people by isolating a single cause, authority bias. But that's incomplete. Small initial shocks activate the consistency principle. Looking to calm scientists triggers social proof. These cognitive errors lock together, overpowering baseline morality. Catastrophic professional misjudgment rarely stems from a single error. It occurs when multiple psychological biases operate simultaneously in the exact same direction. Neutralizing these cognitive risks requires strict operational constraints. The primary tool is inversion. Instead of plotting how to succeed, identify the paths to failure. Knowing how to fail reveals the path to success. You must operate strictly within your circle of competence. If a deal is too complex or relies on unproven variables, it goes straight into a designated too tough to understand basket. To bypass bias, apply a two-track analysis. First, calculate the rational mathematical probabilities. Second, analyze the subconscious psychological influences causing cognitive dysfunction in yourself and the counterparty. Treat capital allocation like pari mutual betting. Frame your entire life as a punch card with only 20 slots. This forces you to ignore daily noise and wait patiently for the rare fat pitch. Operationally, you must erase pride and handle mistakes instantly. Berkshire Hathaway initially passed on both Walmart and See's candies. They corrected course only after rapidly identifying their own misjudgment. Extreme structural discipline, checklists, and the willingness to rapidly destroy your own cherished ideas separate master capital allocators from gamblers. We can now apply this lattice work to a systemic test, deriving a $2 trillion global monopoly from scratch in 1884, using fundamental academic concepts. The objective is engineering a Lollapalooza effect, an exponential explosion when multiple mental models act concurrently. Step 1 applies law and math. A generic beverage cannot reach a $1 trillion valuation, so we establish a legally protected trademark. Step 2 requires physiology. The product must fulfill biological drives with calories and a stimulant, possessing zero flavor fatigue for infinite consumption. Step 3 utilizes psychology for Pavlovian conditioning, rigorously associating the beverage with positive stimuli and happiness. Step 4 merges psychology and economics, combining Pavlovian conditioning with social proof to engineer imitative consumption globally. Step 5 requires strategic engineering. We design extreme flavor uniqueness to permanently block competitors from receiving accidental flavor benefits. When these physical, psychological, and mathematical forces overlap, the result is critical mass. Coca-Cola's dominance is a predictable Lollapalooza effect engineered from first principles. This framework functions as a relentless, rigorous methodology for achieving objective reality in a deceptive world. A decision-maker must operate like a pilot. You must constantly run mental models through a mental simulator to prevent the atrophy of critical reasoning skills. Build the latticework. Define your circle of competence. Invert the problem.
Wait patiently for high-probability data and constantly guard against cognitive misjudgment. Worldly wisdom is the ultimate, necessary defense against the inherent destructive chaos of complex systems.